Hey, it's Marklin here with your video thought for the day. So I've been looking at the temptations of Christ this week, and I wanted to do it again today and look specifically at what Matthew lists as the second temptation in the way he orders stuff. It's a fascinating passage. It's found in Matthew chapter 4. It starts with verse 5. And it says the following: the devil took Jesus, it's Jesus, to the holy city, referencing Jerusalem, and set him on the pinnacle of the temple. Now, the Greek word pinnacle, we don't know what part architecturally of the temple it was, but it's a high point in the temple. It could be, part of the temple was 50 meters, so that's 165 feet or so high, 16-story building. Puts Jesus at the pinnacle of the temple. And he says to him, if you're the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. Then Jesus said to him, again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Now, look at this with 3 points real quick. First point, Satan quotes scripture to Jesus. Satan's quoting from the Psalms, and he's quoting scripture to Jesus, and that is pretty profound because Satan has this ability not only to twist scriptures, but to twist the instructions of God. Satan has an ability to take something that might in another context be good, but misapply it in a way that's bad. After all, isn't that what most sin is? Take just, for example, the sin of gluttony. God wants us to eat and enjoy food. It's nourishing for us, it's healthy for us, and it's also a source of pleasure and comfort, but not to excess. To excess, it's sin and actually bad for us. And so in that way, the sin of gluttony is taking a good thing and twisting it to a bad end. It's the same thing with sexuality. Within marriage, sexuality is a marvelous gift of God. But outside of God's strictures, it gets twisted, and it's not something that's of its best, fruitful, and highest use. It can even be destructive. And so this is the way of Satan. All right, point number 2. While Satan quotes scripture, Jesus responds with another Torah scripture from Deuteronomy. And Jesus' thrust here is to set aright what scripture says. So what Satan had quoted was a psalm that said that God's going to protect those who take their shelter in him. And of course, Satan quotes this from the top of the temple. So he's taken Jesus to the Holy of Holies, in a sense, the holy city, as Matthew emphasizes, to the temple, the holy place in the holy city. If there's any place God's going to protect his son, that would be the place. And so Satan takes him there and uses a scripture, but that scripture is talking about people who take refuge in God from the problems of this world. Satan's twisted it to have Jesus create the problem that he gets his refuge from. And that's what Jesus points out when he quotes the scripture. He says, no, we're not to create problems for God to solve. We're not in the business of telling God, here's how you need to go about doing things. And that's what Jesus would be doing there. I take this and I want to live right. I don't want to put God to the test in that way and try to twist things to make him do things by my agenda. No. All right, third thing, and then we'll be done. This is a preparation temptation for Jesus. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Jesus says no and wins through godliness in this temptation, but it's not a one-time temptation for Jesus. This foreshadows a temptation that Jesus is going to have over and over. Several times in the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew will record how the scribes and Pharisees and others demand of Jesus to call down a sign or a miracle from heaven. In essence, to do the very thing that Jesus refused to do here. Then think about the cross of Jesus. When Jesus is betrayed, Jesus says, look, don't you know I could ask my Father to send legions of angels and he would save me from this? Or when he's on the cross and the demand is made, hey, you said you'd destroy the temple and raise it back up in 3 days. Why don't you do something about this? Get God to come down and do some miracle and get you off the cross. Over and over and over, Jesus would be challenged by the temptation of doing things his way. But he always chose to do things God's way. I like that. It's a great thought for me today. It's a model for me to follow, and you too, because it's your video thought for the day.